Alright, for the gentlemen out there, if you're on a nice date with a pretty lady, if you ever want to do the whole shoulder thing, this is a great trick. You just go, hey, I can actually count really well. 1, 2, 3, 4. It works every single time. Or if we're going for the space method, you can just go, hey, check out my rocket jet. Crash landing. It works literally every single time. It's awesome.
Happy Monday, guys! Yay! This is our guest.
Hi!
On our very first episode of Couch Talk. Couch Talk. Couch Talk. Today we're talking about space. So this is Braeden. He's a very good friend of both of ours and Taylor's co-worker.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, Braeden.
Well, what do you want to know? We work together, so we've been friends for a couple of years, so you know me particularly well. Well, alright. For you guys out there, I am 23 years old. I've lived in Kamloops my whole life, done quite a bit of traveling, but I've always had a passion for the sciences and
geek things in general.
Yeah, let's go with that.
I think that's a good thing because you work at All Aboard Games and they have magic. They basically sell like anything nerdy that you need besides comic books.
Board games, video games, Magic the Gathering is what we primarily do there.
Tell us about space.
Why do you like space? Let's go with that. Why do you like space?
Alright, well, it's kind of a long answer, but I'll try and nutshell it for you guys.
The TLDR Reddit version.
Alright, so I, growing up, was a fairly religious individual, and over the course of a couple of years, I actually wound up, starting to question a lot of this stuff, and I felt very lost, and I felt very, I don't know what to do with my life, and I was a ship without a rudder. And along comes a couple of science textbooks, and in particular, the original Carl Sagan, Cosmos. And I watched that show religiously, and then I started, going into some of his books, and then I started reading more, I just started reading essays about, higher levels of dimension and interstellar travel, quarks and quasars, and I just started, digging into all this stuff, and just suddenly the entire universe just felt so much bigger, and I felt much smaller as a result of it, but that wasn't a bad thing, which is a very strange thing for some people to think. It's just you are a very important part of this world without being meaningful, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that's okay. We're made up of old space parts. That's why Braeden likes space. Now maybe Taylor, you and I should kind of talk about why we're wanting to have this couch talk about space. You should go first.
I just really like the idea of space and the unknown of it. We still don't know a lot about it. As well as my love for the sci-fi stuff, so Doctor Who, Guardians of the Galaxy, Star Trek, Star Wars, all that stuff. And just the probability of okay, if this technology did exist, or can it exist, where would we be?
I like space because, well, for me, I just always liked the stars as a kid. My parents owned a cabin, so we always got to see it without any light filter out in East Barrier Lake, and it was just gorgeous. So I just wanted to know constellations and about the planets in general. So I took astronomy in high school, and then I took 2 years of astronomy in university, and it was awesome. I learned a lot. There's still much I really don't know about it, but it's just so intriguing to me, and I like space. The final frontier. I love space so much. Math is the universal language of space.
This is very true. Chemistry is a very close backup to that, but if we ever were to meet another interdimensional race of beings, mathematics would probably be the form of communication. On the Voyager 1 record, on the golden record that's attached to the probe, there is also an inlay of a few pieces of imagery that were designed by Professor Carl Sagan and a few other associated scientists, and it's a message for anyone who could find this probe particularly. So it has a visual aspect of what a human being looks like, in proportion to the probe itself. It has a collection of music on the record of itself. Just the sounds of Earth.
So, when was this sent out into space?
1976.
Oh man.
Unless I'm mistaken. I'm relatively confident it's 1976.
What direction is it heading? Like, is it heading towards
It just passed
closest...
Pluto, didn't it?
About 2 years ago, it actually did pass it's called the Oort cloud, and it's actually...
Yes.
Pluto is sort of on the inner layer of the Oort cloud, but the Oort cloud is a collection of meteors and asteroids that are just currently orbiting around our solar system. That are just being held by the sun's gravity, but not quite strong enough to pull them in just yet. But it did actually just recently pass that, and it is now in the legitimate vacuum of space. It is outside of our solar system.
Whoa.
I can get behind that. Go robots!
You guys are asking about, the cool stuff that's been happening as of late in space.
Space is cool.
This is true.
Yeah.
Speaking of cool things, which you have seen this many, many times. I've seen once and have cried from it. We can talk about that another
I
day.
had a panic attack.
Okay.
Interstellar.
Oh, Interstellar. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
So, thoughts in general before we ask you questions.
I thought it was a brilliant film. Chris Nolan is one of my favorite directors. I'm also a bit of a movie buff, for those of you who are wondering. But Chris Nolan's directing style is epitomized in this movie. It is a solemn story. It's got enough dialogue that it connects to the characters, but it mostly tells the story through the visuals, and it lets you fall into the world as opposed to forcibly just kind of push a story on you. But the visuals in and of itself were some of the best I've ever seen. If not the best visual film I have seen in my entire life. I saw it probably 4 times in theaters because, you will never be able to match that experience. But the acting was great. The science was fantastic because the physicist Kip Thorne actually was behind a lot of the production of the movie. He was one of the producers for it. So most of the theories and the science of it had to clear an actual physicist before it could get into the show.
Isn't there many books talking about the probability and theories of Interstellar's accuracy too?
There have been a lot of documents written about it.
Yeah.
For the most part, it's based on theory and mathematics. We're pretty sure wormholes exist. We're pretty sure that this is how a black hole operates, but no human being has ever actually experienced one up close. So we have really good math to show how these things are supposed to work, but we can't actually know for sure until we have done tests, which unfortunately we can't do just yet because we are still very much earthbound. You would never want to go to outer space?
If I was frozen, if they put me into
the
a
whole
sleeping
hypersleep
pod,
thing?
I would do that. I would do that. Because then if something goes wrong, I will not know.
Okay.
Fair enough.
I could not live on a spaceship and travel to do it. I just, the idea scares me so bad.
Because there's, this very thin barrier between life and death.
I just have a huge anxiety about being in space. Being on a different planet, fine. Being in space...
No, we're talking, deep space here, because, whenever you talk about, astronauts and stuff, they're in low Earth orbit. They're not really in, space, interplanetary travel.
The movie Gravity, though,
But I would go to outer space in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
The second, interstellar mining becomes a thing, because it will be. There was, about 8 months ago, there was an asteroid that passed pretty close to Earth, just actually outside the moon's orbit, that was approximately worth $13 trillion, 13.6 unless my numbers are wrong, of just raw material and ore of titanium, platinum, iron, which is primarily what asteroids are made of.
Wow.
Was there adamantium?
There was no adamantium, because that's not a thing. I'm sorry. I believe the most recent chemical element to be discovered was capricnesium.
What is that?
It's just another chemical element that was recently produced in a lab. So it's not in the noble gases, but...
How recent?
About 2 years ago.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah.
Go science!
Woo, science.
I just think we need to give that a good clap, because science is going places.
Yep.
And that's what worries me. The things that I cannot even dream about. And and the things that I haven't conceived, that I can't conceive right now. Things that are out there that we don't know about, but are still terrifying to our future generations.
Well, there's still also a ton of things, like, on our own planet that we do not know. Like, the deep sea.
Yeah, that's...
Which is still terrifying, right? Which is...
The surface of Mars is better mapped than the bottom of the ocean currently.
Yep. So, like, just food for thought.
So, we had a little intermission, and that's why Braeden doesn't have his jacket on.
Because he's a butt nugget.
Okay, so I have one more question before we end this video. It's going to be around our solar system, and I know obviously a lot of it like isn't true to science and anything, but if you could live on any planet or moon in our solar system, which one would you pick and why?
Saturn.
And why Saturn?
Actually not specifically Saturn, but probably one of the larger moons of Saturn.
Okay.
So like Europa or like...
I would probably go with Io.
Yeah.
For a lot of reasons, primarily the view. Saturn is by far the prettiest planet in the solar system, and I would put approximately 376 rings around it because of how much I love that planet.
Good job.
Oh man, like the view. Could you even imagine waking up, looking up, and just seeing Saturn rising over the horizon in probably 20 times closer than the moon is from Earth in terms of scale, and on top of that, the rings. I couldn't imagine.
That'd be pretty. That would be like some next level stuff.
Fonda, what would you choose?
If I wanted to go with just like being kind of like geeky, I would really want to go on that too.
What?
You just really like Poseidon, don't you?
Oh.
But when I was in my second year of university, I wrote a paper on the moon Titan and how it is inhabitable. In the sense of what it has is stuff that we need to live on it, and so I just wrote about
Just the probability.
Yeah, just the probability that if it was possible for us to do it,
I would be okay living on a potato.
then we could.
A potato.
Yeah, it's
potato
Titan
shaped.
shaped like a large potato.
Because it has rainbows.
Yeah.
It has rainbows.
That's
I don't know what
lovely.
type of... I can't remember because it's been so long, but it rains, but it doesn't rain water.
No, it would be methane or possibly just hydrogen.
I think it was one of the two, but it still made a rainbow, and I was like, dude...
See, that's why I would like to go to Io. Not just for the amazing view, but because of the fact that we're relatively confident that the planet is primarily comprised of water. And, of course, the shell of the planet is a incredibly thick layer of ice because it is in, the middle of the void of space. But the core of the planet is still probably molten. And if that is the case, then it is producing an enormous amount of geothermal heat. So the layer between the very hot mantle in the core of the planet and the icy layer on top could be an enormous planet-sized liquid ocean. And if you look at the incredibly dark and deep places of the Earth, there are animals that can live and thrive in an environment almost identical to this without having any influence from the upper levels of the world because they have their own self-contained ecosystem. So if you're looking for living, breathing organisms in our solar system, that's probably going to be your best bet, is on the moon of Io.
Huh. Interesting.
What about you, Taylor?
Probably like one of Jupiter's moons, because Jupiter's purry, and then I can see Saturn really nice.
Have you guys seen Jupiter's Ascending?
No.
No.
That laugh though.
It is the stupidest thing ever.
Isn't it like 12-year-old fanfiction come to life?
I love it.
Well, it was awesome coming and chatting with you guys.
Thank you for coming, Braeden.
It was really, really fun. I would love to do this again with you guys anytime you have the free time and I don't have you working.
You will definitely be on this show because you have a lot of important things I think we also like, and it would be good to have a third person to talk with things. Thank you for watching.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah. Have a great Monday.
Like, comment, subscribe.
And we'll see you next week.
Bye.
We are using elbows because we're so close in the couch. Da-da!